everyone. Welcome to Weekly Dharma Gathering. My name is Sheena and I will be your host today. Tonight's session, Curiosity, Playfulness, and Joy in a Polarized World, will be led by Aarti Tejua. She will lead us through a guided meditation, a Dharma talk, and we'll close with a Q&A. As always, tonight's session will be recorded, so if you prefer not to be seen, you can turn off your camera. And please note that even during our Q&A session, we'll also be recording. So you can, again, feel free to turn off your camera. You can put comments or questions in the chat if that's more accessible for you tonight. And the recording for this gathering will be available within 48 hours via your purchased products on your Weekly Dharma Gathering Vimeo account. So we'll send out an email once that's available to you. And I will now introduce you to our teacher for the night. Aarti Tejua is a mind-body healer, spiritual activist and coach, meditation and embodiment teacher, contemplative art instructor, student of Buddhism, and a sacred space holder and facilitator. Aarti has also been a community organizer, youth mentor, and advocate for those impacted by the justice system. She graduated from DePaul University with an MS in Technology Project Management. She worked in the IT finance industry for over 10 years, including 6 years at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. After completing 1-month meditation retreat in 2008 in Shambhala, Aarti left the corporate world and went to work for Shambhala for 10 years. During this time, she trained as a mindfulness meditation instructor, interplay instructor, art of hosting facilitator, and circle keeper. Aarti co-created 3 self-care mindfulness conferences with multiple nonprofit organizations working to end violence in Chicago. She developed several mindfulness and team building trainings for nonprofits and youth in schools throughout Chicagoland. Aarti has personally witnessed how the magic of creativity and movement, the power of meditation, and the art of holding space has transformed the lives of so many people and hopes to bring the same tools into the workplace and as well as to us tonight. Aarti has moved, which she just shared with us. So she is in transition, living with her partner, Matt, and their 2 kitties, Buttercup and Fiona. Aarti, please teach us. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you for having me. It's wonderful to be here and to be with all of you tonight. And to everybody that's listening, not in real time, but who's going to catch this on the recording, welcome. I'm in, just so everyone knows, I'm in Maryville, Indiana. I'm transitioning to North Carolina. We're planning to move to North Carolina in the summer. And we just sold our home in Chicago, actually in Berwyn, last week. Everything is blurring together, but that soon. So I have been in a whirlwind of selling and landing up here in Maryville, Indiana, where I grew up, and my parents currently live and own a few apartments. And so I moved in. My husband and I moved in. And as a transition point so that we could sell while the market was hot. And so that's where I am. I have been, since I've been sort of transitioned here, it's been really interesting to be in such close company with my parents for the first time in I don't even know how long. So I'm 43 years old, and I left home when I was 18 to go to college, and then lived in Chicago since I was 20. And so here I am, and I'm getting to experience my parents in this sort of different way, and just going back and really learning who they really are right now in this point in their lives. And I was really nervous to move here, very, very nervous. And but it's just been really healing on some level that I can't quite explain. I'm sure I'll have more to say about this when I'm here for a while, but it has been some sort of healing is taking place in me right now. And I'm really grateful to be here. And so while this at first was a transition point, now it feels very much like a place I'm supposed to be and a stop that I was supposed to make. So I'm very grateful to be here and to be sharing this place in my life with all of you. Literally this place that I'm here. This land that I'm on here in Maryville, Indiana is Potawatomi land, and Potawatomi territory. And I am really feeling into that, feeling the sense of the lands, since I really spent a lot of time here growing up here. I'm also revisiting the lands in a new way. So thank you. And I'll just say one more thing. I am really also exploring my ancestry this last couple of years in a deeper way. My family is from Sindh, which is present-day Pakistan. And I have never been to the lands of Pakistan. I really do hope to go. I feel like it's a place I'm supposed to visit and be again. But until that happens, I have been, really feeling into what are my roots, and the sensation that comes up in exploring my root lineages. So I've been feeling into that more and feeling both the wisdom of those lineages as well as the trauma of those lineages too. They're both coming up simultaneously, not one or the other, but both at the same time. And so that's kind of where I'm at. And so I'd really love to share a meditation with y'all tonight. So if you can find your seat, you are welcome to lay down if you need. You are welcome to have something there like a candle. You are welcome to make it a sacred space for both your surrounding and also for your inner, however you want to create a sacred space inside. You can reflect that on the outside. So, and then we'll just find our seats. And you're welcome to close your eyes for this if you'd like. And, or leave your eyes open. Either way is fine. You can have your cameras on, you can have your cameras off, whatever feels good in this moment. And as we sit here together today, just feeling the wisdom that is in our bodies. That comes from the lineage of our blood ancestry. And even if we don't know that blood ancestry in our thinking realm, our bodies remember. Our bodies remember all the lineages we're part of. And we can just gently go back. Back through time, back through space. Feeling the lineage that has passed from one hand to another. The wisdom that is passed from one being to another. the traumas that have passed from one being to another, and both the wisdom and the traumas landing up here in this body. The wisdom ready to be seen, and the traumas ready to be seen too, to become wisdom. And we feel the support of the ancestors before us, ready to be seen again. Ready to be felt. The softness of the compassion. All the way back to the first beings. The great clarity. The connection with the lands. All that wisdom here, ready to be seen. Now we can just be with all that we are. Every sensation a gift. Every feeling a gift. Every breath a gift. This moment a gift. Our lives a gift. And now take a deep breath in and just let it out. And take another one in. And shake if you'd like. Let it go. Or come back slowly. Whatever your body is asking for right now. A little bit of stillness or a little bit of movement. Been sitting a lot today. Some days it's the opposite. Oh. How are you all doing? I had been sitting with this. I had all sorts of different ideas on what I would speak about today. And it's interesting, I wound up with this topic. And I think part of me has been really finding a lot of appreciation in a lot of humor lately, and in a lot of lightness and joy and silliness. I can be a very, very silly person. And I've been wanting to just let that flow. So this topic of joy and humor and silliness, and I asked myself, because I've been feeling like the humor and the silliness and the joy is like a really big wisdom teaching, even though I think it gets overlooked or something sometimes. But I'd been thinking of all the polarization in the world and feeling into what that means, right? For preparation of this talk, I thought, what does polarization feel like in my body? And so a number of times this week, I let myself contemplate polarization. And I came up with this, and I tried it myself, and I actually tried it with my partner, Matt, who was kind enough to try this with me and brave enough to try this with me. But together we were exploring polarization on an embodied level. And what I mean by that is just, if you will, right now, just feel for a moment polarization, this word, polarizing, opposite forces, whatever comes up, whatever words come up for you, whatever it is that comes up. And if you'd like, we could make a gesture together on what that feels like in our body. What does polarization feel like? And for me, the gesture looks like and so you take a moment, you can turn off your cameras. You're welcome to turn off your cameras for this, for a moment, and just feel into this word and see what comes up for you. What's the gesture? It might not look like mine. And then just go ahead and pulling my hair out. Yeah. Yeah. And you can physically do it. Just go ahead and physically do it. Let your body go there. You don't even have to have words. Just feel what does polarization feel like? And I'm not sure how you feel, but I identify the session, the feeling of it as not one I enjoy. Maybe you're different. Maybe it feels good in your body. Different things for different people. But for me, it doesn't feel good. And so it's something I don't like to get involved with because it feels so yucky in my body in some ways. And so that's what comes up for me in polarization. And I've been doing this thing where I've been really getting into words. You know, I've been noticing that unless it's like a noun or something in the English language, like pen, that we can all kind of agree on, the words just are really different to everybody, that are more complex. So for me, I've been going back and trying to feel into my own language. And so polarization, and the way I've been doing that is this, like, really getting into the feeling in my body that comes up, to then be able to verbally say what that means to me. And so for me, polarization feels like opposing forces, or camp A and camp B, you know. And I have this drawing of like, because another thing you can do is draw it. I have this drawing that keeps coming up for me. It's like this. It's like a circle, and A's over here and B's over here. And then, you know, I also came up with a circle with A's and B's kind of flying everywhere in the circle. But there's still A's and B's. There's still this camp and this camp, and then I was like trying to come up with some sort of like deeper thinking in this, and I came up with, well, A camp, you know, for example, thinks the world is still flat, and B camp is like, no, the world is round, and they just cannot agree. And so A camp is like, it's flat. I'm telling you, it's flat. That's how it is. And B camp over here is like, no, it's round. And then it's like they sort of butt heads or something. And it doesn't matter who's right or wrong. You know, I was thinking about that too, because I fall into a camp. But it doesn't really matter. It's just kind of putting my own feelings about it aside for a moment and just looking at the thing. And so there's just this going on. Round, flat. And there's some fighting, and there's some pulling and pushing, and but they just can't see eye to eye. And then the anger starts, you know, the real like solidifying. I've been feeling into anger a lot too. Those of you who don't know me, I maybe have a reputation for this, who knows, but I used to be a really angry person. So I'm very, very familiar with anger living in my body. And, you know, so I've been feeling into what does that mean? And I've been, you know, just sort of this feeling of A camp and B camp and worlds and anger and just unpleasant. I feel like the whole thing is unpleasant. And I have a side, you know, I fit into a camp. I'm in World Round Camp. But even though that, you know, the feeling of the camps, sort of the polarization, if you will, still don't feel good in my body somehow. And all the anger. You know, I just have come to realize that I'm not one of these people that walk around saying that anger is terrible and that we should, like, you know, it has no wisdom. I've heard that before. There's a lot of wisdom in anger, actually. But I've also come to realize that for me, anger has always pointed to injustice. You know, it's been a direct marker to injustice. But I also don't want it in my body. I don't want it manifesting in my body. And I think it manifests differently for different people. Some people have anger and are told that they shouldn't be angry so many times that they start bringing it inward, starts to like become part of their body, and illness even comes out. And then for some, like me, I happen to think this is even though it's not one that I love doing, it feels like a little healthier. At least it comes out. For me, it comes out, it projects. When I get angry, I project. So not everybody projects, but I project. And, you know, and oftentimes in my life, I've projected directly at the person that is really making me angry, or the thing that is making me angry, very directly, in a very direct way. And, you know, I might be right. There might be an injustice taking place. That's what might be making me angry at the moment. But what I've noticed happens is that when I've projected my anger in this way, directly at whoever it is, the very thing I want, which is for them to actually see this and to see me, actually doesn't seem to happen. And what I've noticed, and here's what I've noticed. I've noticed that when I project at someone directly, they seem to feel my direct wrath and go into a shutdown mode, go into a total shutdown. And it is like they can't hear me anymore and they can't see me anymore. And I've come to realize it's because they really can't, on some physical level, cannot. Because what has happened is, and I recall the times that has happened to me. The wrath has been projected to me, in whatever case it's been projected. But the immediate cowering that happens in my body, this is the reaction of mine that comes at me when anger comes at me. And I imagine that, and there's something in my body that shuts down, that no longer sees whoever is directing that at me. And my ears shut off and my eyes become closed, and all of my senses sort of become, they go inner. For me, they go inner. And I feel that the rage, and I go inside of myself, because that's where I can feel safe. But in this moment, because outside, the something's coming at me. So I go like this, right? And different people, we have different responses. We have very different responses, potentially. But regardless, what I've noticed is when I direct it, either someone goes in or they try to fight me on it, and then we become polarized because we're trying to take a side, trying to take A or B camp, right? And various things can happen, but what doesn't happen is actually what I'm trying to get, the outcome that I want. And I have gotten to the point now where I want the outcome. I want the outcome. And the outcome for me is to be seen, to be witnessed. So I started to ask myself what to do instead of that. And what I started to come to was curiosity. And there's something about curiosity, or feeling into curiosity now. My face does a And I think about Dharma, Dharma. And Dharma encompasses everything, it encompasses everything. But this sense of curiosity about the world, right? I don't know about you, but I came to Dharma because I was like, what am I in? What the heck is all this? What's life? Who am I? All the big questions. I have all the big questions. And so I came out of a big sense of curiosity. And what I mean by that is I didn't have the answers. And so all I could do was be curious. What's this? What's that? And then Dharma for me became curiosity of two things, both my internal world and my external world. My internal world in the sense of, why do I feel so sad right now? Right? I used to suffer from a lot of depression in my 20s. And it used to be that I would get so sad. And then I couldn't get out. It was like I was stuck there. And it really was the meditation practice in the Buddhist world, mindfulness practice, really helped me to start to see, like, I think of mindfulness practice as curiosity practice. What's actually going on? What's going on in here? And so in this moment where there was a feeling, I got curious about my feelings and I started to see more clearly what they were really about. And so for me, the sadness, it's lifelong exploration, really, the sadness. But I started to see this other side of me becoming angry at the person who was sad. And it was a vicious cycle, really. So once I told the angry person they didn't have to do that anymore, that they could just let me be sad, then sadness just started to break free. So I got curious about here, but I also got curious about out there. And so going back in my bio of social justice in Shambhala, that was really about me becoming curious about out there. I got curious about other people's worlds that were not mine. I'm a grew up middle class Indian in a white community. in Maryville, Crown Point, Indiana. And I grew up with Indians. I have a, I have a sense of some different worlds. I understand a certain type of Indian mind. I understand a certain type of white mind. I know, but there are so many other worlds than that. And when I was in Shambhala, I started to be able to get glimpses into other worlds. And that was me being curious again. And that became more of a curiosity of, who are you? What are you about? Why do you do that? How come you think that? I don't think that at all. How come you think that? Right. And it was it was a little bit different than, I don't agree with that. I'm going over here. I don't agree with that. It was more like, I don't agree with that at all. What makes you agree with that? Fascinating. Would you share that with me? Do you tell me more? Started to become like that for me. So now, I'm moving to North Carolina, and I've never lived in the South. And, I'm going to move to an area where it's, I think, probably more polarized than where I live now, although I'm getting a glimpse living in Indiana too. But it's a different political viewpoint going on right now, in case you didn't know. But so now I'm in that. I have a feeling I'm going to be in that. And I've had my share of this over it. Believe me, I'm no saint. I've had my share of this. But something about moving here is helping me to go, I'm going to actually become curious about this now too. I don't know anything about this mind. This is going to be a whole other world for me. I'm going to get curious. Probably going to get mad too. But I'm going to try the curiosity thing inside of the anger. Anger is going to be something that I get curious about. I'm going to get curious about both out there, what's happening, and in here when my anger comes up. I'm going to get really curious, and I'm looking forward to it. People ask me if I'm scared to kind of move there. And no, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to understanding more. Not necessarily agreeing, but understanding. There's a difference there. Would it be difficult for you all to get a piece of paper and a pen or a pencil? If not, you can do it in your mind too. It's not like you can't. I think it's just more effective on paper. So you're going to write something down now, and you're not going to share this with anyone. You're not going to share this. We're not going to share this with each other. You're not going to share this with your friends unless you want to. But you're not going to. So this whatever you write is just for you and only you. So just for a moment, a couple of minutes max, I want you to write, how do you feel about the current vaccine situation? What feelings come up for you? Do you have an idea of how you feel? Okay. Now, maybe some of you wrote about how angry you are that some people refuse to get vaccinated. How dare they refuse to get vaccinated? And then maybe some of you had the opinion of my body, my choice. If I want to get vaccinated, I'll get vaccinated. If I don't, no one should tell me what to do. And then, maybe some of you are like, I really don't care. I'm so tired of hearing about this. I don't care anymore. Or maybe some of you are like, I'm not even paying attention anymore. What's going on? So you could be in all those camps, and there's probably other ones. But now I want to tell you that you don't get to feel that way. Whatever your opinion is, you don't get to feel that way. If you are someone who believes that everyone should absolutely have to be vaccinated right now, what is going on? You don't get to feel that way. You don't get to feel like that's what it should be. And if you're somebody who's like anti-vaccine, I don't want that anywhere near me, you don't get to feel that way. You must be vaccinated. You don't get to feel that way. And if you're someone who just doesn't care, you don't get to feel that way either. You have to care. And if you're somebody who deeply cares, you don't get to care. You don't get to care. You don't get to feel how you feel. In fact, take that piece of paper now and just crumple it up into a ball, tear it up, and throw it away because you don't get that. How does that feel? So when we're in it, it doesn't really matter really which camp you fall into. Even if you're right, scientifically speaking, even if you're 100% right factually, it doesn't matter. That person believes otherwise. And if you tell them they can't, well, you just felt how that felt. So, how do you make shift? You have to go, you think the world's flat, huh? I'm pretty sure it's round, but it's fine. I'm going to put my opinion to the side for a second. I know it's right, but doesn't mean you have to get rid of your opinion. It just means you can pop it over to the side. You can go back to it later. You can pop it over to the side. And then you're just going to become a vessel. And you're going to become so curious about this person in front of you, their mind, their heart, what makes them tick, everything. Doesn't matter what it is. Why do you think the world is flat? Would you be willing to share that with me? I would love to know more. It might be the first time anyone's ever even asked them that. Well, I think the world is flat because I go outside and I walk one foot after the other and I don't tip over. So it must be flat. I don't see anything else. Well, do you know that we've been able to take pictures of the Earth all the way from space, and we kind of know what it looks like. I don't trust those pictures. How come? Can I ask, how come you don't trust those pictures? They come from people they think they're so smart. Those scientist types, they think they're so smart. You don't think they're smart? They think they're better than me. I think they're better than me. Why do you think they think they're better than you? Because I know a guy like this once in high school. He thought he was better than everyone else. And then one day I tried to answer a question, and all he did was turned around. I never asked questions in class, but all he did was turn around and say to me, I could answer it better. And then he did. Those kinds of people are heartless. I don't even see people like me. Anyway, the answers might surprise all of us. They've surprised me. I'm not always good at this. I'm still learning how to be in this. But I'm pretty sure that this curiosity practice is the one I feel is really ready for me to dive into. And so the next part of my journey is, I know that's going to be included. And we'll see what happens. I'll be giving another talk sometime in 6 months, a year, whatever, and then you can see what I come up with next. Anyway, I'll stop talking. I'm curious what that felt like and how you feel and what is arising. Even if you think I've completely lost it.
So I think that is just a wonderful idea to get curious about what's going on, with someone, to go and have an opinion that I truly don't understand and disagree with. But wow, is that challenging to to step past. There's generally, for me at least, there's a lot of emotions that are going on when I hear someone who is expressing a view that is so different from my own. And I think I could probably do like a first question, but being able to even see my assumptions, to be able to ask a second question or to not want to try to fix. Yeah. That's a challenge.
Yeah, I am not proposing anything easy here. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to mess this up like a million times. I'm by no means perfect at sitting with my anger. But, so maybe it starts with just one question, right? Because, there's this sort of, I don't know, when anger is directed, or when I hear something I really disagree with and anger comes up, oftentimes it's this quick, like, knee-jerk response. But if I'm able to even step back and ask one question, there's some sort of pause in that. And so it's a start, a pause. And then the next kind of step, if there were steps to this, would be, can I listen to this answer now that I've asked this question? How am I going to listen to this answer? And really, like, when the answer comes, I have to stay inside of curiosity. I have to stay, I have to stay in that. And to stay in that for me means I've somehow got to take my own ideas and I've got to like put them over here. And somehow I have to just kind of be with whatever's in front of me. And sometimes in order to do it, it almost feels like a sense of play. Like maybe not taking it too seriously, right? Because when I get embroiled in the situation, I'm taking it very seriously. And when I can be inside of curiosity, then somehow it's not serious anymore. Or this person in front of me it's not so serious. I kind of like, it's a character almost, if you have to think of it that way. I don't like to say that because I don't want to say that there's not humanity in what's in front of me, but if it needs to be a character, in order to become curious, then it needs to be a character. I think we each have to find our own way in the door. For me, what helps me, I really, again, going back to humor, we talked about at the beginning of this, I have really found humor to be very helpful lately. I met this person recently who is a very polarizing figure in their community. But when I met them, I didn't know that. If we had talked about our views, I wouldn't have liked them because they're a very polarizing figure, meaning like not polarizing in the opposite way that I am. I'm a social justice. I've always thought of myself as a social justice person, and this person's like not. And so I would have probably disagreed on a lot of issues, but I met them in such a way that I didn't know who they were. And so, but they were so funny. They were so funny. They were just a funny person. And when I'm around a funny person like that, my humor comes out. And so we were in the same space together for a few days, and it was so fun to be in space with them because we never talked about anything political or anything serious, right? And then I thought to myself, and I haven't done this yet, but I thought, now that I know who they are now, thought to myself, though, I could really get down and talk to this person. I could really be curious. I could really ask this person stuff and like not be mad somehow because we shared this like humorous, lighthearted time or something. There was something that got softened. So these are some of my ways. And I'm sure there are other ways because we each have our own wisdom kind of ways of working with this. But however, to find curiosity, right? This is so that's what arises for me in that question. I don't know if I answered it, but there's no answering any of this stuff, right? Like we're all trying to figure it all out together.
Yeah, that was helpful. And in particular, I don't know if you said it directly, but the idea that I don't have to do it perfectly, and that allows a lot more space. And also the idea of slowing down and recognizing, that I don't have to, I guess gets back to doing it perfectly and understanding, like, I've done this the right way. So the idea of, as you said, be a little playful and see if I can have some humor about myself. That feels like a good thing to, like, wow, I really hold on to that pretty tightly.
We are very funny. We are very funny. All of us. There's not a single person that's not funny.
And all the different kinds of funny.
All the different kinds of funny. And it's not personal. It really isn't. It feels so personal when it's coming at you, but it's not. Like, in that last example, he thinks the world is flat. Because what? Because he had this experience in high school of this scientist guy mind that he associates with scientists. It doesn't even have anything to do with me. His view. It's coming from a whole other place that I couldn't even imagine. I don't know what's in his universe. I just don't. So somehow, if we know that it's not really, this has nothing to do with me, then it doesn't have to be quite so personal. That's what I'm trying anyway. Yeah, please just turn off your mic or turn on your, just go ahead.
So for me, I'm going to give a slightly different example of two situations where in one in which I get really riled up, and in another where I completely, very successful at doing this. So in my work, I used to, not anymore, in another life, I used to work a lot with people living with dementia, people living with neurocognitive degenerative illnesses, people whose reality might be different than mine. And somehow they would say that, oh, I want to go home, where if they're in their home, or they would say, oh, it's time for me to go to office when they've been retired for 20 years. And what I would find is families would constantly tell people, try to orient them to reality, right? Like, oh, you retired 20 years ago, you retired 20 years ago. And it's just making this person get more and more riled up. So that's a polarization, right? Yeah. And one thing that I learned was, what is behind the words that a person is saying? What is the feeling behind the words that a person is saying? And most often, either it's anxiety, it's fear, it's boredom, it's joblessness, it's, curiosity, whatever. Like, they have something behind the words that they're saying. And again, curiosity was the thing curiosity, but I used to tell people, you have to become a detective, and you have to find out what is the feeling that this person is trying to convey through the words, because it's a jumble, it's a puzzle, it's a mystery. And I am telling you, 90 times out of 100, we could figure out what the person was feeling and respond to the feeling. So people used to tell me, are we not lying when we go along with it? I said, this person's like, the relationship is the point and not who's right, because you could be right and you're going to ruin your mood for the next 2 days and their mood for the next 2 days. And slowly families started getting it. Extremely high success, even in challenging situations when there were like sexual remarks, because people don't have that filter. So can very well do that. I'm called to like all kinds of places, lots of ego. And then it comes to something like politics. Vaccines, I'm okay with, because I've had my own journey with that. But when it comes to politics, when it comes to things like dharma, when it comes to things like gender, sexuality, like I have my hot button, things that I get riled up about. And so what I've understood is I need to know whether I have ears to hear, like you said. But the second thing is, in this conversation, do they have the ears to hear? Do they have are they coming in to have this discussion? or are they looking for a fight? Because sometimes there is sea lining happening. People come to us politely, talk to us politely, keep asking for proof. And no matter how much proof you give them, they don't want to learn. So I think discernment is so critical in understanding what is going on in a particular situation. And then I have learned that I will not back down when there are a couple of things that are very important to me. So I have given myself that, because I cannot be Dharma Raja in every situation. That's not who I am. And I have, like if there was an avatar and I had to have a name, my name would be Rudra, like anger personified, But again, like I said, that I am able to do it in many situations, not able to do it in some situations. And some situations I can, you know, kind of manage. But what I learned is, what I am trying to implement in my life is, the relationship is the point. There's no difference between me and this other person. We both want the same thing: to be right, to be respected, to be seen, to be heard. And if I want that and they want that, how can we come to the table and do that? And the person to teach me that is my father, who supports a completely different political party than I do. And I've nearly given him a heart attack. And it was very heartbreaking to see that, right? And so what I learned was, the relationship is the point. And we want the same things. We want the same things. We want to feel safe. We want community. We want to be respected. We want to be loved. And once I got that, it's a lot easier. Even if I get riled up, I can come back and address it at a later time. But I liked what you said about curiosity, and that's what I am taking away with me, because I've got to the relationship. Maybe curiosity will help me lighten up, because some things I just cannot let go. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, it's beautifully put. Thank you for sharing. And it's nice to meet you, not on Instagram. You said something in all the wisdom that you shared. Do they have the ears to hear? And, I've been really sitting with that, right? Because there's sort of different levels of this. There's like real stuckness. And then there's kind of like, it's stuck, but it's still workable. It's still like, oh, you could work with this. And you have to know kind of which ones to get in. And you have to know where you are in your practice with that. Because this is a practice like anything else. So maybe you don't go in there and you say, give me the hardcore, narcissistic, total narcissists. Let me really understand their mind. Maybe that's not where you want to go with this. So I like to talk about boundaries, because there are boundaries. And for me, that's what boundaries are. It's like, I can't work in this way with this person. It's riling me up, and I don't have the capacity to do this. It's taking everything from me. It's taking up all my energy. And so when it comes to that, maybe you decide right now, I'm going to have a boundary with this. This is not the energy I want to work with right now. It's not where I am, and it's not right for me. And there's a lot of wisdom in knowing that, where that boundary is. And that boundary, when I say boundary, because I don't like to think of boundaries as something so solid that can never be moved. Like, here's this person and me, and we're going to this boundary, and we're never going to cross that boundary, right? It's not quite that. It's like, right now, this needs to be there. And maybe in some point in my life, I will have the capacity to, see this person and want to give more of myself to this person, because it doesn't feel like all my energy is being zapped. Or maybe this person will have loosened up somehow. And so there's a chance there too, right? But so I think that's really smart to have those kind of boundaries. And not everybody does have the ears to hear. So you have to decide, right? It's not necessarily two-way communication, two-way listening. You may not get listened to back, right? Because you may really be curious about this person, but that doesn't mean this person has the knowledge or the skills to be curious about you. Maybe that will happen, but maybe it won't. And then this is to me an exercise in compassion. This is a practice in compassion for me. Do I have enough in this moment to just offer and not receive? And some days it's a yes, and some days that's a no. But when I have the capacity to do it, what I have found is that when I'm engaging with somebody who is really, we're stuck, and like my curiosity somehow it shifts the energy in me, right? It's shifting something here. Maybe it's, if there's two polar things happening, it's A and B, and the energy shifts in one, something happens to the other. And the person may not even be aware you're being curious about them, but it feels good. It feels good to be heard. And you're offering that. You're offering that to this person, even if you can't stand them and what they're saying. But if you can just let yourself, if you can offer that, there's something that could potentially shift in them too, but maybe not. And you have to be okay with that, right? You have to be okay that I'm just going to be a receiver of this, whatever it is, and I'm going to be the curious person. And so it may be one way, and it may take a long time for it to become anything else. Right? I mean, you've probably all had those people that take, and you never get anything back, or it doesn't feel like you get anything back. And then you're like, why am I friends with this person? Well, I need to create a boundary, but you get to decide. You get to decide, very, very much so. That is we get to decide where we're at in our path, in our beingness, in our amount of energy we can handle that day. And there's a lot going on. You can't be expected to like go out there and do this for everyone. Pick and choose. Maybe it's important to do with people that you're in relationship with, like you said, Ekta. These are the people I'm in relationship with. So I'm gonna hold this space for those people because I feel something here for them. I'm connected to them. They're in my ancestry. I'm connected whether I want to be or not. Some of their wisdom and drama is passed into me. I'm connected. They're my family. I have to try. So I'm going to give this some energy. But maybe that guy across the street or something over there, like he's not even really in my sphere. I'm not going to try with him that hard. Maybe I will, depends. But you get to decide. And then some people, they have families that they have to put boundaries up with their families. It's heartbreaking, but sometimes that happens. Crick in my neck. What do you think? Anybody? Is that boundaries come up for anybody? Some people have a hard time creating boundaries. When you have this soft, flowy heart and you want to save the world, you have all this compassion. You don't really want to cut anyone loose. We don't want to create boundaries. We just want to open our hearts to everybody. But that's not realistic, It'll take us down if we do that, if we open up our hearts to everybody. Maybe, or maybe we have the capacity to. Depends on the day sometimes. It depends on the moment. Sometimes I'm triggered. I don't have the capacity to open my heart in this moment. And other times I feel like I have space for the whole world right now.
Well, I'll respond to that because I've set up some boundaries, even though I've had family that I've worked with that it hasn't gone where I thought it was going to go. And I thought I was being patient, and I think I still fail at this constantly. And it's good. This is a good reminder, because I had a conversation last night where I realized in retrospect, I'm like, I'm not sure I was curious enough about that person. And I think they're a person I could have been, and I can remedy that. I can do it again. But to push back, or not push back, but kind of present it, it's kind of maybe along the same lines of your point of picking your battles, is that there's been, over these past, I think at least since 2016, let's just say, there were some people that I follow that are kind of like, supporting certain positions is so odious that at some point you just have to say, like, I'm not going to be in relation to you. And I think that like, yeah, on one level I'd like to be curious, but I need to focus my energy on places where I can make change. And I mean, for me, the tough part's been, some of that's been with my family, and I've struggled and tried to remain open, but it has been places where I'm just like, I don't know. And I'm not, and some of it often feels like, when I think about the curiosity, and it kind of, you've given me some energy to go back and look again, is to whether or not I was curious enough about the person, but it feels like they had kind of retreated to behind a script, like that there wasn't, that trying to get to the person, that it was just this, like, I'll just say it. My mom listens to Fox News all the time, and it just, talking to her was like listening to a Fox News. I wasn't learning anything about her as a person. I was hearing whatever the latest thing was on Fox News today. And it became kind of, and trying to get to that was hard. So I don't know. I mean, I guess that was kind of the decision. One of the hard things that I've tried to figure out is are there, even with important people, like, that you just say, like, okay, I have to move on. I don't know.
Only you know the answer to that. But, when you said that about your mom, I wrote down, they don't want to show themselves to you. And you want them to show themselves to you. And trust me, everyone wants to be seen, but that's very scary sometimes. It's very, very scary for a lot of us to show ourselves. We don't have a world where it feels safe. And so maybe we can hide behind Fox News or whatever it is, because we don't have to be we don't have to be ourselves. We don't have to feel ourselves. It's too painful. So I don't know, maybe it's just finding some way to say, I just really want to know you. I just deeply, in my heart of hearts, my desire is to just know you. I don't want to know about what Fox News said, and I don't necessarily want to know. I know there's all these viewpoints, and maybe you agree with them, but I really want to know what you think. How does it feel for you? And maybe it's starting to get into feeling language. Not verbal, but so when you hear that, how does it make you feel? Like, when I hear that, I feel, ooh. What's it like for you when you hear that? She might go, oh. And you might go, that's interesting. That's totally the opposite experience that I'm having. Can you tell me about why this? When I see that gesture, I feel like it makes you feel free. So what makes you feel free about it? Can you tell me? Because what I really hear from you, Mark, is I really want to know my family, but they won't share themselves with me. And so sometimes you might have to make it safe, or you may have to guide them into it, because we have forgotten how to do that. We don't even, it's this numbness. It's like we can't even feel our own bodies anymore, our own feelings anymore, that we literally, so many of us are latching on to just fill whatever that is, right? It's just this confusion. So how can you help her to feel herself again?
Yeah, that's helpful. I'll have to, yeah, I mean, it's a lot, it feels vulnerable to ask, I mean, even though I feel like I may have asked that, like, it's been years that I've been trying, but it's like, I feel like that it's worth trying again. Thank you.
Yeah. Vulnerability, right? If you want the person that you're curious about to be vulnerable, then you have to sometimes be the vulnerable one first. Vulnerability opens vulnerability. Not always. Sometimes it takes lots of vulnerabilities. And you have to decide whether you want to give that much vulnerability to this person. But again, if you want that because it's your family and you have this connection, and so that's important to you, then you keep trying, and you get to decide how many times and when is enough and how often is enough, and that will change. You can always revisit it. You can change your mind.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I just would want to say one more thing. I wrote this down too. When people create boundaries and we're the one that they're creating a boundary for, that can sometimes be painful. Like, oh, you're cutting me out. It can feel like you're being cut out. Right. And this is the other side, right? This is the side of like being the one who someone else has to create a boundary with you. And that can feel challenging. And we could go, well, what's wrong with me? Why are you creating a boundary? That means you don't want to be around me? And I just wrote down, no one owes you anything. It's okay. You don't have to take it personally they had to create a boundary. It's healthy. It's okay. It's not time right now. For whatever reason, it's not time right now. I mention it because I see it in, BIPOC spaces being created, right? Where people of color are exploring now, like, what does it actually feel like to be in space without whiteness in my space? Because I've tried to be white for so long, like in my case. And so there are spaces being created. And then in my Shambhala times, I think it's becoming more commonplace to have that now, and a lot of white people are relaxing. But I see this like, why can't I had this? I've had someone say, why can't I come to that? Because they feel the boundary of that. I'm not allowed in this space? What do you mean I'm not allowed in this space? What? It doesn't feel good to have a boundary. So that means what? Is something wrong with me that I'm not allowed in this space? What's wrong with me? And you have to go, it's not about you. It has nothing to do with you. It's not to hurt you. It's that you bring a certain energy in, and we're trying to explore something here. Right? It doesn't have to be a bad thing. Boundaries of all sorts. People get to experience anger if they want to. On their own terms. They get to experience that. They don't maybe get to harm others, but of course people are angry. There's a lot to be angry about. It's a lot. We all feel it. So I try to take it not so personally. And then I try to sit into it a little bit. Like, this person got really pissed at me. I got to get really curious about that. I got to know more. Something like that. I should have, maybe we should have called this talk something else. It's a lot of stuff about anger. We could have totally made it the opposite. How to work with anger. Polarization brings up a lot of anger. Brings up a lot of other stuff too, but anger seems to be the one that's really brewing. Anyway, anything else before it's like 7:28. I don't want to keep you here all night, but I also, if something is turning away that you need to bring into the space, I welcome that. Would love to hear your wisdom.
Well, I was going to say that when we were doing the writing exercise, and I wrote out my thing and I crumpled it up and I threw it off to the side, like I felt something, and it took me like a while to figure out what it was that I felt, of like, my opinion being tossed to the side, and I guess it was like disrespect or like some sort of like almost like a grief, loss sort of thing.
Yeah.
Just made me think about, considering what happens when I disregard someone else's point of view.
Yeah. Can you say more about grief and loss? Like what did you feel like you lost?
I don't know. Like I felt like I lost my sense of knowing, I guess, like knowing where you stand, like I guess it was like kind of like, like your legs being swept out from under you or something,
Yeah. 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 Yeah, well, you can always go back to the feeling of that when you notice it's happening, and you're doing it to someone else. You come back to this, you're like, oh, I'm really I might be sucker punching someone right now and not even realizing that that's what's going on. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, one more thing to just say about curiosity. I realized that when I'm curious, another thing that I do that I noticed is that sometimes when I'm listening to someone, I I don't actually understand what they said. Like they say a sentence and I kind of don't understand it, but my mind just kind of skips over and goes and just continues on, and I don't ask for clarification. And I recognize now that when I'm really curious, I ask for lots of clarification, because I realize how different people communicate is not like how even a sentence, if I think I know, but I'm not totally sure, kind of be like, I'm not sure I heard that right. Stop them, like, I'm not sure I actually heard that right. I might not even say that, but could you tell me a little bit more about this? Because I'm really trying to know, as opposed to, I'm kind of trying to know, but I really want to convince you of my opinion kind of thing, even if that's what I really want. Well, I appreciate you all coming. It's nice to not just talk to a camera and actually talk to people and be inside of space with people, even if you all are Zoom heads. I still really enjoy having an audience or an interaction, say an audience, an interaction. And well, often when I teach, this talk is a little bit different for me. I intentionally decided to make it a little more talk heavy. I usually typically don't give a lot of heavy talks. I do a lot of embodied work. If you've ever taken a class with me or something, we're like doing exercises, and I gave you a taste of that with the journal but we're doing a lot of embodied stuff. And I wanted to see what it felt like again to just share. So it's a little different than my style typically is. And so it was really great to have people there. And, thank you to everybody that's gonna be joining us that I won't necessarily see, but I do really appreciate the real-time contact with people. So thank you. It's just been an honor to be present with you in this, sharing this wisdom together, and your hearts and your vulnerability to get on camera. So thank you so much. And our website, my website is www.antara.world, and we are kind of redoing some stuff right now, but you're gonna see, I think we're really kind of exploring creating a podcast. And so we'll see what happens, but stay tuned. But I hope to see all of you at other things and be with you again. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Enjoy North Carolina.
Thank you.
Asheville's cool, I've heard.
What'd you say?
I said Asheville is cool, I've heard.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at Boone, which is a couple of hours away from Asheville. And my business partner, Sojourner, her brother actually lives in Boone, and that's how we wound up discovering it or uncovering it. Went on a camping trip and spent 3 days in the middle of the forest in the mountains, and all my partner and my business partner and my husband went, and I went, what are we doing? Why aren't we in this all the time? And that's kind of how it, so now we've got this dream of having land and really bringing, and also sharing that and inviting people to come into it, whatever it is that we end up creating, and really like experiencing and being and healing on the land together.
Wow, that sounds great. Good.
Yeah.
I look forward to hearing more. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you so much for being with us tonight, Aarti. We really appreciate your talk so much. And thank you everyone for joining us live. And thank you to the people who are watching the recording. Please join us next week, Wednesday, same time, 7 p.m. Eastern. And we will have David Perrin. He will be continuing the Encountering Basic Goodness series that we've been offering. And he will be offering the basics of shamatha mindfulness awareness. So we would love to have you for that. Please consider becoming a subscriber of Weekly Dharma Gathering if you're not already. Right now, we have a 7-day free trial running, so you can find us on our website, weeklydharmagathering.com, and sign up for that there. In addition, we're on social media, Weekly Dharma on Instagram and Weekly Dharma Gathering on Facebook. Again, thank you, Aarti, for being here, and thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Have a great night.
Thank you. Thank you, Sheena.
Night.
Night.